You married this babe. That's on you.
I know I married a weirdo. Lordy.
Soy un perdedor.
What?
Means no, I'm a loser. From the song "Loser" by Beck. Anyway, hey guys, this is my lovely wife Courtney. I'm James Roy, and this is The Noise Date Night Edition. And so this is a show where we're gonna take a dive into movies that we've seen during our date nights, which is weekly on Tuesdays at the moment. We'll let you know if that changes, but that's pretty
Could
solidly.
change.
Yeah, that's when the movies are cheapest, and that's what we plan to do today. But seeing as to how we are people, and we have personalities and feelings and do things, I figured that I'd kick us off by asking, "How's your day today, babe?" Now, disclosure, I've already asked her that today. I'm not a bad husband. I didn't let her walk into the house without hearing that.
This was one of the questions I got beforehand to
Yeah.
prep for.
So she's already, it's already like a loaded question. You've already answered it.
Yeah.
You've been practicing.
Well, I had a great day. First day back at work with the kids. I'm a teacher, 4th grade, 9 and 10-year-olds. Yes, it's a good age. They're still nice. They still like you.
In other
they still
words,
think you're cool for a second.
She's God's gift to this human race.
Just doing what I can for society.
Taking such a low paycheck for such a demanding job.
Trying to just train up the next generation to be, good citizens.
Yeah,
really.
It's not about the money. It's about loving the work, and she loves the work, but
it's fun.
It's so hard sometimes. I do not envy your job,
It is so hard, but, it's worth it.
That's
we
my
get
woman.
all summer, right? Am I right?
Summer was so much fun.
Yeah, we got married.
We did.
5
we got
weeks
married
ago.
July 9th. Woo!
A lot of students kept calling me Miss Flores today. That was really funny.
No, yeah.
And the sad thing was I still kept turning around and responding to it.
It's been an ongoing struggle these first month and a half of marriage.
A struggle?
With the last name thing.
Oh, okay.
Because she's in limbo. It's not been a struggle for me because my last name has remained the same.
It didn't help that a lot of my student gifts that are on display from previous years still say Miss Flores.
Yeah.
So I just tried to plaster Mrs. Ramirez everywhere, and when I used myself in a third person, because sometimes I have to do that to model that for the kids. I only used Miss Flores probably 3 times.
Did you tell them? So she's at a private school, and a lot of the kids from 3rd grade, or really all of them, right, returned.
Yeah, I only have 2 new kids.
Yeah, and so they know her, and all of them were heavily anticipating getting her as a teacher. There wasn't a bad choice for 4th grade, but Miss Flores is my wife, and she's awesome. So I can only imagine these kids were dying to have her as their teacher.
You might be biased.
I might be a little biased. But they saw Mrs. Ramirez, and they were like, who is Mrs. Ramirez?
They were sad until they turned the corner. And it was like the first time in a while where I heard, whispers outside the door saying I just really wanted Miss Flores. And then they turned the corner and saw me. I'm like, hi, it's still me. And then they all felt a little embarrassed, and a few of them walked in and were like, it's just Miss Flores. It's fine.
It's just her. It's whatever.
So, yeah. No, it was good. Good, warm welcome. Love my school, love my work, love my job.
Yeah.
Excited for the school year.
Yeah, well, you don't need to ask about my day because it was very uneventful. Most of it was spent.
How was your day, babe?
It was all right. Most of it was spent preparing for this podcast. So, you're seeing the fruits of my labor right now. Yeah, not much to speak on for me. It was a long commute, but not much happened in San Diego. So.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, good.
Yeah. So let's get into it. This weekend we watched Free Guy, a movie with Ryan Reynolds, Jodie Comer, Taika Waititi, and Joe Keery.
Mm-hmm.
Among other people, there was plenty of star power in this movie.
Oh yeah, it was not lacking.
I encourage you to pay attention to the credits when you go see it if you haven't already. I was seeing names and I was like, what? No way. You really have to pay attention to this one to catch some of that stuff. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid movie. My personal opinion, if this is the point of the podcast where you're like, I don't want to get any spoilers, we'll give you our opinion and then you can go see it. But if you want my stamp of approval on this movie, I'm saying go see it. worth the money, 100%. What do you think, babe?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. If you're on the fence about it, go see it. You've got action, you've got comedy, you've got romance all into one, and I thought it was a good movie.
Okay. Well, like I said, the beacon is lit. The spoiler alerts call for you to not be at this podcast if you don't want a spoiler.
Mm.
I know how much you love Lord of the Rings, babe, so I thought I'd pepper a little in there for you.
Yeah, babe.
Yeah, so yeah, this is your last chance. Get out while you can, because if you don't want to know anything deeper about the movie, last call. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So
Wow.
let's get into the plot. Babe, you want to lead us into this Ryan Reynolds classic?
Yeah, let's go for it. So Free Guy stars Ryan Reynolds. He's the main character. He plays a NPC, which I honestly didn't know that acronym.
Non-playable character.
Yeah, non-playable character.
For you
So
people that don't play video
I'm not
games.
a gamer,
No, yeah.
so all of this lingo was a bit new for me. But he's an NPC, and he doesn't know he's an NPC. He just literally lives his life every day the same exact way. And he all of a sudden sees this girl, and he starts to feel something, and he has
We all
this
know that feeling.
desire to change. But this girl is an actual player, and we find out later that this player who's played by Jodie Comer. She is in this game as a player trying to find her code that she created, her and her partner, which is played by Joe Keery. And I don't know. Yeah, it was like what it's like this feedback.
You can tell we're amateurs here. It's cool. We'll get
It's
better.
cool. Anyways, so going back to the plot, and so this girl played by Jodie Comer, and she's trying to figure out where her code is hiding in this game, because in fact she is the one who created the baseline for this game, like the skeleton, and it was stolen by Taika Waititi's character,
Antoine.
who's his character's name is Antoine. And so all the while Guy is starting to do things out of the norm, right? He's ordering different coffee than he normally does. He's making new friends. He's inspiring others to do something different. And he's trying to figure out how to level up, right? How to be a player in this game.
All the while gaining mass popularity in the game.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. Like, this game is streaming to people, and people are
Exactly.
watching this game, and they're like, who is this guy? But they obviously think he's a player because no NPCs can be outside of an NPC, right? That's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
possible unless they're designed that way,
Yeah.
coded that way.
Coded that way.
Right?
There we go. That's the one.
And so basically, he ends up becoming the hero and saving his world because Taika Waititi character's Antoine wants to destroy the world naturally because his little dirty secret of stealing the codes is about to get out.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's policing, trying to stop that from happening. All the while, Joe Keery's character
Mm-hmm.
works on the inside because of a settlement that he made. He has like an NDA. He has to work for the guy because he was part of the development of the game that's in there.
Yeah, so he decides to work with him, even though knowingly that his code is still in there, right? And so Millie is Jodie Comer's character, and so she is the one who's actively playing this game, trying to find the hidden code, because there are clues in the game that point directly to their original code.
Yeah, and so they then figure out that how to get to the code, and then Joe Keery's character and Jodie Comer's character they team together because she convinces him that she's right.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, who doesn't? What took him so long to figure that out? Most women are typically right, babe?
Always.
Always. So they culminates in a big fight scene featuring evidence of Disney's presence in the movie, which we can get into later. But essentially, Guy has to fight some pretty huge battles to get through to the end and eventually save the server. While Antoine is trying to destroy the server physically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've got like two worlds going on. You've got like the digital game world going on, which is where Guy lives, and he's, becoming his own person. He's figuring things out. And then you've got the real life world, right, with Millie and with Antoine, and I don't remember Joe Keery's character's name. Let me look at that because Although he was
Keys.
It's Keys. Thank you. Okay,
Because
Keys.
I think that's a nickname. It has to be a nickname. There's no way that's his real name.
There's no confirmation that it isn't.
That's all he's called throughout the whole movie.
He's just called Keys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so going back and forth between the two worlds, if you like those like linear timelines going on in there with the plot, that's pretty cool. Because they develop both worlds pretty well. I think. I feel like.
No, I agree. I don't think you get short sold on either world.
No, not at all. Which is pretty nice, and that's hard to do.
I think that they ran the risk of tying Jodie Comer's character to like she was in this weird in between because she was the one who was like most involved in the video game world. Mm-hmm. But I think they did a good job of pulling her out with the. So in the end, Ryan Reynolds' character ends up being Guy is code written by Keys, because Keys and Millie to this point are technically a platonic relationship.
Yeah, they state that they're just friends. They created this game after college. They're MIT grads, exactly, and they tried to sell this game, and ultimately it doesn't sell, and so it gets bought or it gets taken. It doesn't get bought because they didn't pay for it. They literally just took it and turned it into this free city game, right? And so, Millie and Keys have kind of gone their separate ways. Millie is obsessed with trying to prove that their game was stolen, while Keys is just working for the guy who made that game, right?
Exactly.
And you see later on that Keys is definitely hired because he made the game, and clearly he's the brains behind all that.
Well, he keeps asking him to like move up to design to like improve the game. He knows the guy's got it.
Yeah, no, he is being approached to move up from his position because at this point he just deals with customer complaints. So like any user, complaints,
and he's fine to do like that because I mean I think in all honesty he probably feels that Millie's right. But he just doesn't want to admit it. So
I think there's more like emotional.
Well, he's non-confrontational.
Layers that we could probably.
He seems like a very non-confrontational character. He doesn't want to like.
Yeah, but he probably also felt like I was kind of a failure because we made this game code and I thought it was great and maybe it wasn't so great.
Well, and Antoine got in his head and convinced him that it like wasn't gonna
do well. Yeah, no, he was definitely convinced and brainwashed that it wasn't gonna do well.
Yeah, but
and all the while he still can pretty much manipulate the whole game if he wanted to because he's that smart and he knows what he's doing. He's legit.
He played a big part in saving the server by helping out Guy. But also, so he wrote the code for the game, and in Guy's code, there's a point where he like the reason that he literally.
Oh, we're diving into this now.
Yeah.
This is like the whole like. If you're one of those type of movie people and you're like just trying to figure something out, like that little bit of mystery. For me, this was it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
From my perspective of cracking that ahead of time,
leave it untouched.
I absolutely turned to you and called this. Did I not?
Oh no, yeah, she called it like 5 minutes into the movie, and then she turned to me when it happened and was like, "See, I told you."
Yeah. So I have this weird thing where I like to just predict the whole movie within the first like 20 minutes of watching it.
Is it because you're like a film major?
I don't know. Maybe because I'm a film major and I tried to see like, did they use the lighting correctly to make that mood, the music, the verbiage, the scenery, all those things come into play, right?
Yeah.
And so by Ryan Reynolds's, little blurbs, right, his little quirks and stuff, there is a small clip that they show in the beginning.
Yeah.
That kind of gives you your background information on Millie and Keys, and it's basically like their interview after they made that game and are trying to sell the game.
No, yeah.
And she was kind of just saying how she likes coffee because they're kind of just saying like, oh, what do you guys do? Like, just tell us about yourselves, right? Because they're just these two college grads. So she's like, yeah, I like coffee with 2 sugars or whatever. And if you pay attention to those little things of what she likes, those little details, and then later on you're watching it and Guy literally is mirrored after the things that Millie likes.
No, yeah.
Right? And so obviously someone had to create Guy. And that's the whole point is that Guy was created by Keys. And so you get that romance element, right? Because, Keys does this whole like behind the scenes game video, right? Where he's talking about developing the characters, developing the codes, and developing the game. And so eventually when Antoine is trying to destroy the game, right? He ends up rebooting it, which does reset all the characters, but it doesn't change the codes, right? It doesn't change who they are. And so Keys gives Millie this video and is like, hey, you can still fix it because Guy's code is still the same. Meaning Guy was triggered by seeing Millie.
Exactly.
Right? Which was his dream girl because Guy is essentially a guy who just goes to work every day and kind of like idealizes about his dream girl,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But never actually thinking he's going to meet her because he's an NPC.
The classic case of designing a character based off how you see yourself. Because Guy was.
Well, and yeah, and that was the
Guy
thing.
was
Like,
Keys.
Guy, yeah, essentially, Keys designed Guy based off of himself,
Exactly.
and which I called that way ahead of time.
No, yeah. Way before I did, because I didn't really pick up on it.
You kind of looked at me like, okay, stop talking in the movie.
Yeah, I was like, babe, I'm really trying. You're gonna have questions at the end of the movie, and if I don't pay attention, I'm not gonna know how to answer them.
Okay, I'll just Google.
And then I remembered that this isn't Star Wars. This is, a regular movie, and she probably, as a film major, knows a
In
lot
my
more
defense, I have not seen the last 3 Star Wars, so I definitely needed to see that. I mean, I needed to ask questions. I was a little lost.
No, yeah.
I'm all about the Padme and Anakin Skywalker era, Natalie Portman.
Oh, you mean like the era where like Natalie Portman was like entirely too old to be playing Anakin's love interest, and then suddenly they were like basically the same age.
Yeah, yeah, that continuity was not great. I agree, but she could have been like 12 or 13, or she could have been like 16, and he could have been like 12, which is really like close to the same age gap as you and I. So it's really not that weird.
No, I could have sworn that when you actually look at it, I'm pretty sure she was like 14 and he was 12 at the time of filming. So they weren't actually that far apart.
No, they weren't.
Women just grow quicker initially.
Well, yeah, like I mean, some of my 4th grade girls are just double in height. Yeah, over the boys. Yeah, it just happens. I mean, for me, I was 5'7" in 4th grade.
I believe that. Yeah.
Freakishly tall. Yeah. All right, let's go back to Free Guy. Anyways, so yeah, there's a lot to unpack as far as character development. I thought they did a really good job. You're emotionally invested with Guy, even though he's an NPC, and you're like, this is so weird. I want this digital person to live, and I want him to thrive. And at first, you are kind of thinking, well, maybe it is like someone else playing him. Like that is always a possibility, right? That someone is on a computer and playing him.
They removed that really quickly, though.
But then they really establish him like, okay, he is an NPC. That's how he's coded. And basically, Keys and Millie come out with saying like, hey, we actually developed an AI character, and that's never been done, which is groundbreaking, right?
I felt like what they did a good job of, though, was that when they talked about Guy, a lot of times you got lost in like whether or not he was real, and like especially the scene where like he kisses her at like, and you pan out, it's just her in real life watching him kiss her character, and it's just like, oh yeah, he's not real. Okay.
Yeah, I love those moments. So anytime you did feel like he was real, they like quickly brought you back to reality, and I'm like, yeah, you're rooting for a guy who's definitely not real. He's on the screen. But very much how we get connected to videos and to movies, right? They're very much making it like you could get connected to like a video game character. And I think for some people, like that's actually real, right? You could really get connected to those characters, especially if you're playing those games a lot. You're like investing your time in that world. You're building whatever you're doing, completing those missions, jumping those levels, right? You are invested.
There are guys that like on paper, they have papers saying that they're like married to video game characters, right?
That's I did not know that.
No, that's a legitimate thing.
Like, I remember like working during Comic-Con, like times, right? Like in Orange County, there was like a smaller convention. It wasn't Comic-Con exactly, but there was like a convention in Anaheim that used to happen.
And stuff like that.
Yes, a cosplay convention. And I remember working at an outdoor mall right next door. So all of them would come down and eat because we were like literally the closest outdoor place, but many food options. So if they were out of town, that's pretty much where they would go. Yeah. And so they'd all come in like dressed up and super into character, which was cool. Like I didn't know half the characters. I hardly knew any of them really.
But you could tell they weren't playing themselves.
But I can tell like, yeah, they were genuinely like super invested in embodying these characters as themselves, right? And really committing to it and really believing in them and, just supporting them. And so I feel like, that is such a different world that I'm not personally invested in, but there are people out there that are invested in. So that's kind of cool to have like a video for them and appealing to that audience and kind of relating to people like that.
But making that and also making it accessible to more people.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I mean, and that's the thing, like there's so many different types of games. So if you're not into this type of game where you're stealing cars and beating people up and that's how you level up, right?
Yeah. Well, and then it
Which is not
eventually
morally right, but
at the end of the game when they what Antoine destroys most of the servers. There's only one remaining, and they make a negotiation, a deal at the end where she gets the free city game one, and then he can continue to make games after that. Essentially, it seems like a bad idea at the time, but like I think all of us in the theater were like, "Oh, that's a bad idea for Antoine," because
well, yeah, she said like you can buy the rights to make more free city games, but that wasn't even the name of their game, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. So they get the server for the initial game, and then they make it into a peaceful game where their essentially their code allows the people get to watch these characters develop and play in the world.
Yeah, and kind of
like,
just be who they want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of the message for them is that, you know, you are who you are, and you should be who you want to be, and not kind of fit into this mold, right?
Yeah, and I
breaking
think,
that mold.
And that's also the point where they push Jodie Comer's character very organically out of the game, because you're kind of worried she's going to get caught in this thing where she wants to spend all her time with Guy, but then
you're like concerned, like, is she going to have a virtual relationship even though she is a real life human?
And that's when Guy expresses to her, he says, "Look, I'll say it for you. You should probably spend time in the real world, and also, you you should also understand that like someone wrote my code, so like
even though he is everything she's wanted in a guy, right, in a relationship, and he is, you know, immersed in who she is and her beauty and knows everything about her and is all about her, right, which sounds like the ideal boyfriend." Exactly. Right. I remember when you and I started dating, you know, you were like all about me. Still are, right? But, you know, she's essentially like being courted by this guy, right? They're never like official or anything like that. They did kiss. But, you know, she is like so invested in that relationship because he is all about her. He knows what she likes. He's super excited to see her. He just expresses to her how much he loves her, right? And so I think that's what makes her come back for more, right? But then, yeah, it gets to that point where he's like, you know, I am engineered to feel this. Exactly. So he does initially feel that, right? But he's like, but somebody created me to feel that way.
Exactly. Well, and that kind of reminds me of the another relationship we haven't really tapped into, which one of my favorite characters in the movie was actually Buddy. He had a really minor role.
Lil Rel Howery.
Yeah, Lil Rel Howery.
He did great.
And I've seen him in a lot of movies. He's really a great actor, and I feel like he falls into a kind of a typecast, which I think he plays well. I mean, so that was definitely a role that I would have expected him to play.
Yeah, but I do like how they brought him back at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So in the scene where Guy is trying to save everything, he's running across a bridge, and Antoine's destroying servers. So the game is literally falling apart.
It's glitching,
and Buddy's character falls behind Guy, and the bridge that he's on destroys, and his part of the server gets destroyed. And they have like a really intimate moment because to this point he was Guy's best friend, knew everything about him.
Well, his name is Buddy because he's the buddy.
His buddy.
Yeah. He's also an NPC.
And so they bring him back in the end scene as well because Guy's kind of feeling lonely because of Millie's character leaving the game to go be with.
And that's what Guy ultimately like tells her is like, I actually have somebody that I love hanging out with all the time.
Exactly.
And it's Buddy, right? Buddy is his real true friendship that he actually genuinely wants to hang out with all the time. Like he could hang out with Millie, but like he's also just designed to think like ideally that would be great. But like really going on in his life is hanging out with Buddy and being friends.
Exactly. And then another thing we haven't tapped into is dude.
Oh my gosh.
So like Antoine, right? Is using the software to develop like a beefed up version of Guy, but as you can tell from you can see this in the previews.
Let's slow down because assuming people haven't seen this, unless you have, but
we already told people that if they haven't.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, if people are still listening and they haven't seen it, we should still like rewind a little bit. So basically, because Antoine is destroying the game, he's also trying to do everything he can to destroy the game, right?
Yeah.
To destroy Guy's world. So he's making buildings crash, he's making cars, all these things to take him down because he can't control the background characters anymore because they've all revolted, right? They've all gone on strike. They're all Team Guy, Team Buddy. They all realize like that they could have their own life, right? Yeah. So he's just using like other elements in the game, like buildings, cars, and whatever to just get rid of him. Right, but still he's prevailing because now he's figured out the game and he's figured out how to win the game. So he's doing great. So he comes up with this this I don't know, how would you call it, like mega player, this ultra player.
No, yeah.
Yeah, like a bigger version of Guy, and he's called Dude. And it's
Dude.
literally played by Aaron Reed. His body, but his face.
But with Ryan Reynolds'
Ryan
face.
Reynolds' face.
Imagine like Ryan Reynolds, but
But,
on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, Jersey Shore. Or I was thinking more like, what's that beach like movie show where they're like running in the bathing suits?
Oh, Baywatch.
Baywatch. Yeah, Baywatch with like the bleach blonde hair. Like I get early '90s vibes or late
Yeah.
'90s. You know what I'm saying? Early 2000s. And
The
then he's got, my favorite part is he's got the blue shirt because Guy essentially just wears a blue shirt the entire time, right?
It's
Whether when he's an NPC who was robotic NPC or NPC going rogue, that's what we'll call him, right?
Blue shirt guy.
He still wore a blue shirt. And so the whole world refers to him as Blue Shirt Guy. And so Dude has a mini blue shirt tattooed on his pectoral muscle. And it is hilarious.
No, yeah.
Because they're just like paying homage to the original
homage.
Blue Shirt Guy. Do you like that word?
Homage. No, I like it. That's a nice word.
Homage? How do you say it?
Homage.
They pay homage?
Homage. That's how I've
We
always
got to
heard it.
cut this out then.
We've got to
Cut it out.
No, it's fine, babe. It's perfect. It's awesome.
Homage.
You're
Pay
perfect just the way you
homage.
are, babe. I love you for you.
Okay. Well, we just told everybody it was a teacher, so this is awkward.
That's fine, babe.
Okay,
That
cool.
just proves that nobody's perfect. I've got to work it again and again till I get it right. Wisdom from Hannah Montana
Awesome.
today
Awesome.
on the show. But
All right, anyways.
my favorite
But yeah,
part about
it's really funny.
so also to rewind, Joe Keery's helping him from the outside, right? Keys. And he sets it up to stream. So like they remove all the gamers from the game in the pinnacle scene, and all the NPCs are out. So that just leaves Guy. And so when all the gamers get removed, he ships everyone's game to stream Guy, everything he's doing. So all of this is happening in the public eye, and we get some pretty cool features in this. The only gamer streamer guy that I can name off the top of my head is Ninja. I know he was one of the big features. There was other streamers like Poca, what's her face? I don't know. One of the female streamers' names has to do with Pokemon, and that's the only reason I even slightly remember it. And then you've got Chris Evans shows up, which plays into one of my favorite parts of that scene, which is this is the part where they really incorporate their Disney ties.
Yeah.
Because at one point Guy pulls out a lightsaber. At another point, like
Captain America's shield.
It looks like dude's about to crush him, and he puts his glasses on and like pulls out a shield perk. It's Captain America's shield, and then Chris Evans pops on. It's like, oh, what's that? I was like, what a great feature to have him in
It was
there.
very cheesy, but
yeah,
I did laugh.
no, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like a Disney fan, like you'll
Well, then he pulls out.
appreciate that. You're a Marvel fan, you'll appreciate it.
Yeah, he's got the shield, and then he pulls out the Hulk arm to punch him back.
If you're like a big time movie critic, you might be like, that was really cheesy.
That was a little cheesy. That was a bit much.
It was a bit much. I mean, it wasn't Oscar worthy, but it was good. It was funny. And then the Hulk hand comes in.
Oh my gosh.
That was great. Yeah.
Was it the best part to me was how creatively he stops dude, because like you'd think that he'd have some sort of triumphant moment. He just
but the thing you have to realize is that dude is him, but like literally on steroids, like physically on steroids.
Exactly.
So like he's not gonna be himself. So he has to like outsmart him essentially, right? And that's another thing too. Another element to dude's character is that he's not all the way, I don't know, coded. Is that how they?
He literally
call
turns
it, right?
to
And so
in the
one of the
preview.
girls who's like uploading him, right? She was like, but he's not ready. And then she's like, okay, fine, we're going to upload him. Like, everybody witness this because he's not ready. And I'm not going to go down for this, right?
And Sean's like, I worked on him
Yeah,
personally.
she was just like, this is not okay. Because it's going to reflect them, right? And so he comes in and he was like, I'm Guy. I'm adjective. Insert adjective. Third adjective. Catchphrase, right? And so it's really funny how like he's not fully complete, but he's just super strong and he's super what's the word? Kind of like dense, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, he's
Like he hasn't really been
He's
fully
like-
developed up here. And
what you'd imagine like a big meathead would be like.
Yeah.
It's
oh
like,
yeah.
I pick things up and put them down.
Yeah, but he's talking like that because I didn't fully develop his coding, so he's just like
So
speaking
you could imagine that like
to
shiny,
the capacity that he can.
shiny bright things might distract him.
Yeah, Yeah.
So guy turns around, puts the glasses
Mhm.
on him, sends him going.
Yeah, so when he puts on the glasses, for him, that's the first time he's able to see the game in its full capacity, right? All the levels up, all the, the different powers that he can get, the different, you know, I don't know, cars he can drive, whatever he has access to as a player, right? Because you see all those little shiny things that you want to go get
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
use to like help you win the game, right? And so he's like just distracted by that. So that's pretty much it. That's how he defeats him. Or yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah, no doubt. And then the last thing I really want to talk about is, like I told you early on in the podcast, you really got to pay attention to the previews, or not the previews, the credits, and look at who's playing who. I'm gonna give you two names, and I'm gonna have you watch the movie and tell me if you can guess where they show up, because I remembered their scenes when I saw who they played,
Oh yeah.
but I couldn't have told you who they were. So big name here, John Krasinski,
Mm-hmm.
better known as Jim from The Office.
Emily
or
Blunt's husband. You
Emily
know.
Blunt's husband, director of The Quiet Place, Quiet Place
However-
2. You know,
whatever
however you
look
want
at
to call
that,
it.
yeah.
Really just
big
depending
name.
on what era you came in, he's either a really jacked fit guy that's like super, or he's
Oh, like
Jim.
Jack Ryan status.
Yeah, Jack Ryan status.
Yeah. Still
And
need to
then
watch that.
and then also second name, Dwayne The Rock Johnson
Mm.
is in this movie.
And Hugh Jackman.
And Hugh Jackman. I didn't even see that one on there.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman was in it?
Yes.
Jeez.
I
So
know,
there's,
I
you
know.
know, I lied to you. 3 names. There's 3 names.
And Tina
That's-
Fey.
That's what I love about you, baby. You
Did
make me
you
better.
did you pick that one up?
I picked up Tina Fey. I called that one out
Oh,
too.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
That one's a
4
little
names.
harder to spot like while it's happening, and then after you're like, oh yeah, that's totally her.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
There it is. My better half just improving me. We went from 2 to 4.
I got
Just
you,
like
babe.
that. You really just doubled my production. I'm so happy right now. I'm
You're
so proud of
welcome.
you, babe. Love you.
Love you too.
But anyways, so from an analytical perspective, babe,
Mm.
can you give us like a short breakdown of like what you liked and what you didn't like about the movie?
Yeah, for sure. I loved just the different coloring of the both worlds. Sometimes one world is a little bit more grainier, a little bit more just off than the other, and that's to establish that there are 2 different worlds. And I get that you're supposed to do that. But what I liked about like these 2 worlds is like one of them was very bright, right? And obviously that was the game world. It was so bright. And it was colorful and it was like inviting, but also so bland because they're just like boring people
Oh, yeah, exactly.
in this world, but somehow you were still like interested. So they did a really good job on the coloring and the design with that. I also think just the linear, storylines that are going on at the same time that are happening in 2 different worlds. It was so easy to follow. Like, honestly, there were kids sitting by me. I'm not saying this is good for kids, but I'm just saying like there were kids and it seemed like they were very much easily being able to follow the storyline. So I think that's really important too when you're trying to appeal to a mass audience. And I think that's what this movie does. It does appeal to a wide variety of age range and a wide variety of genres. Like I said in the beginning, you've got action with a whole video game element, with the whole like, overall premise of the video game is essentially to like, they're supposed to like rob banks and kill people. And
Exactly,
so
yeah.
you got that action element going like nonstop because that world does seem so real. So you're like in it and you're like, yeah, this is like a cool action scene, car chasing scene. If you're into action movies and stuff like that, that it has all of that explosions, which is great. Those slow motion fight scenes. She has this one cool shot, Millie, Jodie Comer's character, where she's sitting backwards on a motorcycle. And it's just like an iconic Tomb Raider type style where she's got her guns moving on the side, doing a 360, like shooting people and hitting them every time. So you've got the whole action element there. You've got the love story with like the hidden codes, the like little clues here and there that Keyes is really in love with Millie. And you're just kind of rooting for them the whole time. You really want them to be together, even though Keyes is being such a jerk to Millie, like every time
No, yeah, I
she
agree.
comes to him for help. He's just kind of like shutting her down, and you're like, really? Okay, I
No,
can
yeah.
like try and get better, right? Am I right, ladies? But then like ultimately, like you do like Keyes, even though he is being mean. You still want him to be with Millie, and that comes from like just their chemistry and the way that they interact with each other, their body language, the way they look at each other. Like you can totally root for them and want to see them in the end together, and you get that at the end, which is great because every viewer who loves a good romance wants to see them together.
I feel that to some extent.
Mm.
So with mine, I'd like to express two things I thought were positive and one
Yeah,
thing
go for it.
that it wasn't a negative. It just was to speak to
I
your
will
point.
say that final scene was not satisfying enough
I agree.
with them just a peck and then like
It ended.
cut to
No,
black.
I agree.
Literally cut to black and then go back to Guy's world. It really did emphasize though, like, hey, I'm glad you like Keys and Millie.
No, yeah.
You did it. You got sucked into this love story and we're throwing you a bone by showing them kissing. But really, the main story is about Guy. And that's really what that does to us as viewers. Is it like, they finally kiss, cut to black.
Yeah.
Okay, you're like, okay, but do they like date? Can they like show interviews of them making games together?
I know
You
what
know.
feeling you're talking about, but honestly, for me, so with Keys and Millie's storyline, it was weird how they painted them to me, because that was one of my biggest issues with the movie, was that I guess they weren't the main storyline, so they didn't really put a lot of time into it. But they kind of were like, hey, these guys made a game together and their relationship's platonic. And then every interaction they have in the movie leading up to like them realizing that their code is in there is very like a divorced couple that's like having fights over the kid.
Interesting.
And so
I think because
I guess they gave me the feeling throughout the entire movie
Yeah.
that they had already been together. So then when they ended up together, it didn't seem forced. It made sense. But I wasn't looking for it the whole movie, because I felt like they were too far gone. I felt like at points they painted their relationship as too tattered to bring back.
And I'll tell you why I feel the way I do is because I called it in the beginning that Guy was Keys. And so because I knew that Guy was essentially Keys, like based off of him and his own feelings for Millie, it actually like communicated to me that, oh, here's a guy that works with this girl. They're really good friends and he likes her. And
I mean,
he
I got
hasn't
that
pursued
impression
that.
too.
So he created this person, this persona of his feelings because he's never really expressed that.
Yeah.
Right? Because maybe Millie's backstory is she's all work and no play, right?
No, that's definitely it.
Yeah. And you know, like even as a guy, like, and you're just friends with somebody and girls make it very clear that they just want to be friends or that you are just friends. Like, I
You
don't think that
can't climb that
necessarily,
wall.
that doesn't really necessarily give you that green light to cross that line, right? Because then you don't want to ruin what you actually do have.
The fear of
I mean,
losing what you have,
correct me if I'm wrong as a male,
pursuing
right?
what you want.
Yeah, pursuing what you want. And so I think because looking at Keys in a way of being like wanting to preserve their friendship over anything,
Yeah.
right? Or even just keeping her in his life at all costs. Obviously, the other underlining storyline. So you've got the storyline of Guy and Millie in the game. And if you are viewing Guy as Keys, like how I was, because I knew that Guy was not real.
Yeah.
I'm a realist, right? I'm like, that's got to be Keys. So in my mind, even though I'm seeing Ryan Reynolds, right, fall in
You're
love with
seeing
Jodie
Joe
Comer,
Keery.
I'm seeing Joe Keery because I know Guy's not real.
Yeah.
So that's why I was just kind of rooting for it. But yeah, you're right though. Like, and then all the actual scenes of Joe Keery in person interacting with Jodie Comer in person. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't any like indication that they were ever going to be together.
No, yeah, I agree.
And the most that it kind of gave off was that like, okay, maybe he could help her and turn into a good guy again, right? Maybe
Yeah.
he could do the right thing and not sell his friend out and be on her side because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying though, for sure.
Yeah. And so then also the last two positives before we kind of move towards a closing. One is that I thought that Taika Waititi's character was very well cast. I thought the casting in the
he
movie
did
in
great.
general was great, but to explain deeper into it is that he's a director, and I know he has acting credits to his name. And as someone who is not that deep into film, I feel like he's a director. That's
Did
what
you
he
see
does.
Jojo Rabbit?
No, I hadn't seen it yet. That's on my list.
babe.
I've seen like it looks like a good movie. I
Guys,
need to watch it.
we're really trying to expand James Roy's movie palette these days.
Don't worry, I'll get there someday.
Let's get out of the Pacific Rim. Let's get out of the cult classics.
What are you saying that Pacific Rim's not good? Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Either way, I felt like his casting was great because to play his character's out of touch with reality.
Oh yeah,
The dude has let
it's over the top.
he's over the top, and so when I see his character, I feel like you almost have to put like, I don't want to say non-actor because I know he has acting credits and I know he does that. I know his primary thing is directing, and I feel like that's the closest you get to putting a non-actor in that role.
Yeah.
Because at times it could have been considered bad acting, but honestly, it just fit the role.
Oh yeah, I think it needed to be
It walked that
cheesy
line.
and over the top, and it needed to be borderline cringy.
Oh
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
like
was
everything
cringing
he
every time
said,
he was on
I'm
the
like
screen.
cringing,
I'm
but
like,
I'm also
"Ooh."
laughing like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just came out of his mouth.
No,
But also that was really funny. And if I'm trying to picture like an Academy Award winner actor in this role and like trying to tone themselves down in some way, right?
yeah,
It wouldn't have worked. It would have been like weird.
yeah,
Like if we got like a Matt Damon to play this, I've been like, that's weird. You need to be in some action movie.
no, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Not like
agree.
trying your hand at comedy. But I think that's the good thing about comedy is that you could be super cheesy and over the top and it works for some people.
No, exactly.
And I thought it worked for him for two. Yeah, for
It
sure.
did, yeah. And the other takeaway that I have, honestly, is that, and I think this goes without saying, it's like
Mhm.
it's pretty obvious, but I feel like it's the only other real take that I have is that aside from that fact that casting was great, specifically calling out Antoine, I really thought that Ryan Reynolds was like above and beyond,
Oh, he did awesome.
which it's an obvious statement because if you've seen any of his work, except for the one work he did with Taika
The Green
Waititi.
Lantern.
No, we don't speak that name here. That's bad luck. We don't do that.
People got to know.
People gotta,
If you don't know, now you know.
if you don't know, now you know. Anyways, so
Hey, we all start from somewhere, right?
this is the portion of our
We all learn and grow.
movie review podcast where we've not consulted each other.
Mm.
I think we both have a good feel for how each other views the movie.
Yeah. Should I give what
But-
the public is saying first before we give ours or after?
We'll give what the public's saying, and then we're going to give our scores on a count of 3
Okay.
at the same time.
Okay.
To dare to be different, it'll be on a
Mm.
scale of 1 to 7 because I'm feeling lucky.
God's number.
You're feeling lucky.
But that
punk.
means that all the movies we do have to be on a scale of 1 to 7.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Fine, yeah.
It's obscure.
We have to set up our scale, so now we know.
I like an even number, but
You want to do an even number? I like 7, babe.
Okay, that's fine. This is your podcast. I'm just here for
It's
it.
our podcast, babe.
Okay. Our segment.
You're like the biggest like part of this because you're like a film major and you know a lot about film and stuff. You're the expert.
I enjoy watching films. I enjoy analyzing them.
It's your
Why not?
world. You know, as a former PA for Derek Luke and
Okay, let's not name drop.
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to name drop. I wasn't trying to name drop. I was just genuinely trying to put what
Trying
you've
to
done.
put out my resume.
Put out your resume.
Yeah, my res.
Give you some backing.
Oh, thank you.
That way people don't think you're just riding on your college degree. You worked out in LA for like
Hey, for all
a
they
good
know,
amount
I
of
could
time.
just be some random girl who really likes to watch movies and will tell you about them, so you don't have to sit there and read them like I do.
yeah.
Read all the articles.
That's true. What was the public saying?
Well, the public likes it. IMDb's got a rating of 7.6 out of a 10, which is pretty high considering that Oscar-worthy movies generally have in the 8 to 9 score. So 7.6 for a comedy is huge,
No, yeah.
right? Comedies usually tank all the time because comedy is so hard to appeal to so many audiences. It's really just like directed at that certain type of comedy
Oh,
and
yeah.
whoever gets that and likes that.
And if
So-
one person doesn't like your joke, then like
Yeah, then you're done. Like
Yeah.
for me, I won't go into who I don't like, but there's a lot of comedians and I'm just like, meh, that didn't make me laugh. I'll pass. So the Metascore is at a 62, which is in the green level, which is pretty high. And there's a few reviewers and critics that gave it a 75, which is astronomical for a comedy. So that puts it in the green tier. So if you're someone who's like, well, I only like to watch higher tiered movies on ratings, this is definitely one of them, especially if you're into a comedy. I'd say
Nice.
put it in your rotation for
Yeah.
sure.
all right.
Mhm.
Let's go on a scale of 1 to 7.
All right.
I'll count down, and we'll reveal how we felt about it. I think I've got my scoring here.
Oh, I already got mine.
Let's see. You've already got yours.
I had
Okay.
to tailor it from because I just thought, we were either doing like a 5-star scale or like a 10.
I thought you only liked even
5 or
numbers,
10.
babe.
Yeah, but 5 is just like
5 is just
5-star rating.
satisfying.
That is the norm, the cultural norm.
We'll do 10 then. We'll do on a scale of 1
No,
to
you
10.
already
No?
said 7. We're sticking to
We're
that.
sticking to 7? Okay,
Yes.
good. I was testing
Okay.
you. All right. On
You
a
got it.
countdown. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
5.5.
Oh, wow. You rated it higher than I did.
I did a little bit because I thought the production value was really good. I do think that some of the characters were a bit cheesy in my opinion, not like diminishing the whole project as a whole. I thought some of the the wording and the verbiage and the screenwriting in the beginning was a little too obvious that this was a game, if you know what I mean. But then it started to get smart. It started to get quick and pick up. Loved all the different elements of action, romance, all of it tied into one. So that's why I gave it the half.
I went with 5 because I was thinking to myself, 7 is like end all be all great movie, and it wasn't that.
Oh yeah,
And I thought
like
6,
life changing almost.
6 is like what you give a movie that could be life changing if it was just slightly better.
Yeah.
And 5 is like the highest I would give a movie that's like got great production and is awesome, but like maybe it just doesn't quite fit the mold to be like a great movie, and it's like off enough, right? Like
Yeah.
I felt like it was far enough off from a great movie that 5 was an adequate
Like,
rating.
do I think there's gonna be like Free Guy merch later?
Oh well,
Probably not.
well, that was the other thing.
But what about a sequel? What do you think?
No, yeah, that was what I was going to bring up was the
Yeah.
sequel. So, I think that it.
Like, is this going to be a franchise now?
That's another positive that I have for the movie that I didn't
Yeah.
mention earlier, which was that I felt like it was one of the first movies I've watched in a while, where because like we watched Snake Eyes, and Black Widow, and so many movies nowadays
Suicide Squad.
have the rest of the universe in mind. They're
Mhm.
like, how are we
Mhm.
building towards other movies?
Yeah,
And it was just refreshing to see a movie that was literally focused on just telling a
Mhm.
story.
I could say for sure this movie can totally stand alone.
Yeah,
As
no,
a
it is a
standalone?
stand. I don't foresee a sequel. There was no end credit scene. There was no sort of hint at.
Yeah, but Guy is still living and he's still out there.
Guy's there,
He's
but
still
what's-
developing. There could be some NPC character that's off in the distance that randomly was coded by Millie that we don't know about.
You can look,
Just saying.
I can look you in the eyes right now.
Just saying.
And
They left it open.
I will make you the guarantee that if there is a sequel to this movie, it will tank. I would.
Well,
I.
Well,
You
yeah.
have to.
But here's the thing: would you go watch it?
I'd go watch it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I went and watched. I went and watched.
movie makers aren't into things like if it's gonna tank or not. They're into if people are gonna watch it because
I-
when they watch it, that's when they get paid.
I mean, I'm saying I went to go watch Space Jam: New Legacy,
Exactly.
but I mean that
They
movie
made it.
tanked. It didn't make it. It didn't make.
It
back its
wasn't
budget.
great. I agree, but
And
they
it wasn't
made
great.
it because they knew people would go watch it.
Yeah,
So if
but
there's
not
enough, if
people.
there's enough buzz on Free Guy, like people would be like, I'd be down to see it. It's not going to be nominated. It's going to be really lame, but I'd still go see it. They'll keep making it. I mean, what about all the scary movies, Sharknadoes? None of those are great, and they still made them.
Yeah, they made like 5 Sharknadoes.
Exactly, because there are people who would still go watch them, like you and I. We are
No,
those
yeah, yeah, yeah.
suckers.
I mean, we go every week, and there's not every week they're gonna release like a great movie. So
No, we're gonna get a flop.
we're gonna get a flop every once in a while.
Yeah,
We'll see. There's some promising ones coming up. I'm pretty excited.
like which ones? Which ones are we looking forward to?
What was the preview that came on? And it had Matt Damon and Adam Driver, and it's like a
Oh.
duel.
It's called Duel. I think
is
it's
it-
the
is it called
last duel. The last duel.
The last duel.
I love
that movie. Looked really good.
I love period dramas like that.
No, yeah, that one.
That Renaissance era.
No,
my
that looked
fave.
good. There was
1700s,
there was
1800s. all
Gucci, House of Gucci. Looks like a
that.
good
That
one.
looks awesome with Lady Gaga.
Yeah. And then that brings me into, so as we come to a
Mhm.
close, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, wherever you get your podcasts at. This has been Courtney over here.
I've been Courtney.
You've been Courtney. I've been James.
Mm.
And
We're married.
you can tune in next week for the Noise Date Night edition, where we will be reviewing Reminisce, starring Hugh Jackman and other people.
Let's go. Psychological drama thriller.
It looks like it's pretty interesting,
Mm.
and I'm excited to see it.
Do you think it has the potential to flop?
I do think that it has the potential, but I think
Based off the
it-
trailer, I feel like
it's one of those movies that, like, when you get into the territory nowadays of not building a universe and you're just trying to tell a story, it has to be really good, because
Yeah.
everyone's out there looking for the next Marvel movie, the next Star Wars movie, the next whatever's building a universe that's good. They're looking for that. And if you're going to tell something that doesn't have a sequel or doesn't have the potential to build into a universe,
Mhm.
it has to be excellent.
I think with Reminisce, and this is just previewing for next week, but I feel like with the trailer, as a analytical person, I'm like, what kind of guy would just go after a woman who didn't like want him back? Like, what's the reasoning behind that? I could see if like
feel
your
like it goes-
child was disappeared because that's like a part of you and you
Well,
want to like.
I feel like
So
it goes deeper
obviously,
than that.
I know, but I'm just saying that's literally all they give us in the trailer, which is, I guess, on their end, like kudos to them. They really didn't give us much to go off of.
Well, because
But
that's
I
one thing
hope
where
that doesn't hinder
we-
people from wanting to see it
Well, that's
because
one thing
they're
where
like,
we-
that's kind of lame.
when we came into Free
He's
Guy,
literally trying to go into the past for this lady.
I felt like in Free Guy,
That's
the
weird.
preview kind of gave us like
Everything.
everything. Like I didn't feel surprised too much. There was
but
some left to the
in
imagination.
those types of movies where it is so, I don't know, distinct on the audience. Yeah, you kind of got to give it to people because they're gonna be like, yeah, this seems like something I'd go and have fun watching, right?
Exactly,
Because
yeah,
I like
yeah,
Ryan
yeah.
Reynolds. I like his
Whereas
humor.
The mystery is where we're at here on.
Yeah, Reminisce is more of a mystery, and I will say on IMDb it already has a 7.4 user rating, so that means people like it. So whether pre-screeners,
Yeah, it's coming out, or it's out tomorrow night.
yeah, so pre-screeners really like it, which is cool. Because typically, something like that, I don't really see them doing too well. But hey, yeah, some people gave it like 10 out of 10s. So
Yeah.
hey, apparently it's a sci-fi film, and apparently people like it. So I'm excited to see it.
Well, I guess if you're hesitant to see it, hold off. Maybe come back a week from now.
Let us know what you think if you did see it.
Let us know what you think if you did see it, but also maybe hop on the podcast and listen to us talk about it. If you did see it, come listen to us talk about it and then give us your opinion. Like I said earlier, comment with what you think about the movie, what you think about the podcast. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts at. This has been Courtney, my lovely wife, the love of my life.
Thanks for having me.
I've been James, and tune in next week.
All right.
That's the show. Yeah, we did it.
We did it.
Awesome.